Well, did you ever want to tell someone an exact location where to meet you, even if you're moving around? Well, your mobile phone has some very useful tools to do just that. It's called dropping a pin. And in this episode, I'll talk with my daughter, Jamie Schold, who's super passionate about this topic. Stay tuned. Well, this is Tech Tips for Seniors, a show with tips for seniors, or anyone really, on how to better use technology such as smartphones and computers in your daily lives. And I'm your host, Bruce Ciotta, and this episode is on dropping a pin. And I have my guest, Jamie, my daughter Jamie, with me to talk about this because this is something that you are really passionate about. So why don't you tell us a little bit, tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got into that interest.
I'm Jamie. I am a mom and a wife and an occupational therapist. And my hobby is animal rescue. And I have found that when talking with people who need help, many people do not know how to drop a pin. And it makes it very challenging to find them or find the location or find the animal. And I also feel like if we could teach people how to drop a pin, this could be generalized for so many more things.
So for some of our audience, they may not even know what we're talking about when we're talking about dropping a pin. I know, I'll just explain how I got interested in this with you, and we decided to make this podcast. You have a couple of children that go to school at a location that we don't visit frequently. And they not only needed to be picked up at the school, but they needed to be picked up nearby the school, which was a place that they would walk to and be meeting at a certain place where you park your car. And you said, well, I'm just gonna send you a pin. And I was like, you're gonna what? And I didn't really understand that. And we used that as a way for us to locate the spot that you park at every day when you pick up the kids. But when we needed to do that for you that one day, we had to know how to receive the pin from you and then find that location. And it was all new to me. So I think some of our audience may not be aware, but dropping a pin is about finding, I think, a location, right?
Correct. And it's something I do on a daily basis, multiple times a day. So if you were to pick up my kids at a random location, it may or may not have an actual address attached to it. Or if, say for example, there was a lot of traffic on the street that day, the location drop might be slightly different. And so the value of dropping a pin is you can give someone a real-time, extremely accurate location without an address.
Oh, so when you're talking about different locations, you would drop a new pin to somebody then if you were in a situation where there was a lot of traffic? Is that what you mean?
You could, or you could share a real-time location, which is a moving pin. So depending on where you're at, exactly.
Wow, so many things to go through here. There's a lot we can talk about. I'm sure that some people hear this like this is way beyond. It is for me to some regards. Tell me a little bit more about maybe some scenarios or what you might do that would help to make people more familiar with this.
Well, so just for that example of the kids, my kids are walkers. They leave the school on their own and they walk to a street down the road to help me avoid the traffic line. So if you were to pick up my kids, I would do what's called dropping a pin, which is where I would go into maps and find the exact location that my kids will stand at. And it may or may not be an actual house address. I'm not looking for them to go up to the house. I'm just looking for them to stand on the sidewalk at that pin drop. And I would send you that location and you could go exactly to that location, literally to the exact sidewalk square, and find them, assuming they went there.
Okay. All right. So I'm getting the picture that what you're saying is you do this from home or some other location.
Yes.
You can be anywhere when you do this.
Correct. That is one of the biggest misconceptions is I ask someone to drop me a pin and they say, well, I'm not going back to that address until tomorrow or next week or never. And I want to clarify that you can drop the pin to any location, anywhere from home or wherever you're at. You don't have to be there. I literally, sitting in your house right now, could drop a pin to a street in China.
Okay.
Easily.
So now let's imagine that I wanted to do that. I wanted to drop a pin to somebody for a street corner that I was interested in meeting them at. Mm-hmm. How do I do that? What would you typically do? Just describe that to us.
So typically, the first thing I would do is open up my phone, and I'm gonna kind of just go through it to make sure I'm accurate.
Yeah, and we're gonna put a link to a little demo that we'll do for this in the show notes for those of you that are interested in seeing this in action. We'll record a little video and put it in so you can watch that as well. But describe it verbally for the...
So what I would do is open up my phone and go to the Maps app. I use Apple Maps because I've become very familiar with it. You can also do this using Google Maps for people who feel very strongly about that. I love Apple Maps myself. And then so using my phone, and you can either use the two fingers to zoom in or out, and then to slide your map to the exact location that you want to go. Okay.
So you're zooming into a street corner in this instance, right?
Sure. And I mean, I right this second, I'm on my map, in Arizona, in our local area, but you can zoom out as far as the state, the country, anywhere you want, and zoom. So if I wanted to go to a location in Flagstaff, I would zoom in towards Flagstaff until I found the exact street corner.
So when I'm watching you do this, and we'll show it on the video, but you're using your two fingers to pinch and stretch the map to wherever you want to take it to. So you could drag the map around on your touch screen of your phone, and then you're opening and closing that, I see, to make it bigger or smaller, depending on where you want to find that location.
Yeah, that's exactly what you do. You zoom in and zoom out using two fingers. Pinch and then push outwards.
Okay.
And then to scroll north, south, east, or west, you just use one finger and pull the map in the direction that you want to see more of.
Okay, so now let's assume you've narrowed it down to the corner that you want to drop the pin. What are you doing next?
Yeah, so you get as close or as far as you want. And then, so in this example, you might decide which corner you wanted to use, like the east corner or the northeast corner. And you zoom in as close as you want, as close as the map will let you, which is, you can go literally down to seeing like a specific bush or tree, or as close as the map will let you. And then you put your finger down and hold for probably about half of a second. And a little red pin will pop up with it looks like a little key, kind of, inside of it. And it will say dropped pin. And it will give you a lot of information about that pin. For example, how far away you are by car, what the actual street address, if there is one, is. It'll even give you the coordinates, and it'll give you a lot of options when you pull it up. As far as, do you want to share this pin? Do you want to download this location to your phone? Do you want to navigate to it right now?
Okay. And so now you want to share it with somebody. What do you do?
Yeah, and so then once you have dropped that pin and the little box below it shows up, there's the share button. And you said you've gone over how to share.
We talked about share button. I'll link another link to the share button video that we created. It's really helpful.
You would just push the share button, and then you could send it to a person, to an email. You could send it to a person via Messenger. You could send it to them via email or Facebook, or you could simply push the copy button, which copies it to it's like a copy and paste, just like you would do in like Microsoft, copy it, and then you could go to whatever means you use to communicate with that person, whether it be WhatsApp or something in particular, and then paste it into your message chat.
Okay, good. Now, I noticed when you were talking that you mentioned like a bush, but in the case of the map that typically comes up on my phone, it doesn't show any images or pictures of things. So what are we talking about there?
Yeah, then that's a really good question, because there's two different ways. Well, there's four different ways to use your map. Two that I use on a daily basis. I toggle back and forth. When you open up your maps, in the top right hand corner, there looks like a picture, like a fold out quadruple fold out map, like an old map. If you click on that map, it gives you options of how do you want to look at the map, whether you look at it from Explore, which is kind of more of a step back view of like basic streets and the name of businesses that are there. Or you can use the satellite version, which can get you all the way down to specific trees or bushes, and you can see kind of more of like a real earth view.
So I think this is fascinating. I'm sure many people are familiar with Google Maps, but all of these map applications have satellite pictures taken of images, and they're very, very granular, so you can see things that are close up by switching over to what you're showing us, the satellite view on your phone as well.
You can even get a little more fancy if you want. There is a way to even look at it from a street view, like using the binoculars.
Oh,
so if you want to look at a specific like house, I'd have to kind of pull that up. But you can get really fancy with this.
Put somebody right on a front porch.
You can look at someone's front porch, or if you wanted to say, like if you were at an address, for example, and you weren't 100% sure you were at the right place, you could look at the street view and kind of compare the view of a house or a business and make sure like you're
okay.
So it gets down to.
Yeah, I think for our audience, we're not, our target is to get people who maybe have never used dropping a pin and try it and see if they can make it work. So what would you say to a newbie who's, wanting to perhaps see how to send their location to somebody?
Yeah, so just as for my application, which can be, like I said, generalized, I might say to somebody that calls me and say, I saw such and such animal here. And I say, can you drop me a pin? The first thing they always say is, no, I don't know how to do that. So in that case, they would simply pull up their map, scroll to the exact location, and just push on it and share with me. And you don't have, like I said, you don't have to be there to do it. You can, go right to it from your home.
So you talk people through this all the time, it sounds like, because you're
try.
trying to meet the person. Why do some? What are the most difficult things people run into when they're trying to do it?
Yeah. I have not actually tried this on an Android. So that would be the first question is, what do you have an iPhone? I can usually talk them through it on an iPhone. I probably could do it on Android. I just have never tried it myself.
Mm-hmm. And Google Maps, likewise, have you seen people that can use Google Maps to get the job done?
I believe you can. I just don't know specifically. I only really use Apple.
Okay. All right. That's interesting. Now, let's say I'm the recipient of a pin. Now, what do you say? I'm going to send you a pin of where you are or where to go. What do I do with that?
Yeah, I love when people send me the pins, because then you get it via whatever texting app you use.
Okay.
And then you would click on the pin. You would just click. It comes in like the form of a little rectangular map. Mm-hmm. And you would just click on that, and it would take you literally to the same screen that the person who sent it to you.
Okay.
And then using that, there's a little click on the car. You can navigate to it via car, or if you just wanted to have the address for your record for something, you could save that address. You could share it to yourself for the future. You could email it to yourself.
So how would I save it? That's a good question that I know would come up, and it came up for me. When you sent it to us, we were supposed to pick up the kids Friday at 3 p.m., and so you sent it to me 2 days before, and I needed to know where to put it someplace.
If it was something that was more of a short-term thing, this would be your one and only time going to that location. I personally would just save it in my messages.
Just leave the
leave
text.
it in the text thread.
Okay.
Some people delete all of their text messages.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but some people do. So that's what I would do if it was a short-term thing. If it was more of a long-term thing or something I was going to regularly, when you get a pin, there's a button with 3 little dots that says more. And then I would click on that and add it to favorites.
Add to favorites. Okay, so that's an important note for people. If they've never done this before, you get a pin, you want to keep it, just click on the more button and then click add to favorites, and that allows you to save that that location. You could give it a name.
You could, yeah.
Call it something that will help you to remember. Grandkids school, and then you can get to it from there. Okay.
If you were going to pick up the kids at school every Friday afternoon, you would probably want that added to favorites. Not because you don't know how to navigate there, but because every Friday you might be navigating there from a different location. And so maybe you wanted to find the shortest route to the school from somewhere else.
So that's an important point, is when you drop a pin and you send it to somebody, it will help that person to get to that location from wherever they are.
Right.
Because the mapping tools and the navigation tools that are built into these maps will tell you where to turn by turn, street by street, in order to get to that exact location. And I guess if it's off the grid, like if it's not on a road, what happens then? If you picked a bush somewhere in the middle of a let's say a park, how do you get there?
Yeah, it would get you as close as you could, and then there would continue to be walking directions to it.
Okay, so walking is added right into the navigation then. That's pretty awesome.
Sometimes they have a little trouble understanding where cars can go and where they can't. For example, if you had a pin drop on a canal, you might have to kind of use the zoom in and zoom out to find the most reasonable parking place.
Okay.
Because they're not going to offer that to you.
Okay. All right. That's really good. So I think we've covered over some of the questions I have. Is there a simple way to send one for somebody? I think you showed the thing. I think what we need to do is create a little video demo like we talked about that shows exactly how to send a pin to somebody, and then hopefully people will take a look at that and they'll try it.
Yes, I think the one other thing we talked about was sharing the real-time location.
Oh yeah, tell me about that again. 'Cause
So
we didn't do that on the show.
And the application for that would be if you were a moving target, you or somebody was a moving target for somebody else to find. So for example, if you're running in the next hour, you're making 5 different stops for running errands. Or if you were walking around a park, but you weren't sure if you were going to be at the playground or the basketball courts, and you were going to be spending some period of time moving. You can share a real-time location, so another person trying to find you would find you where you're actually at, not just your last shared location.
That's something I had no idea existed, and I could think immediately of a location example for that. We were going to be at the regional park in our neighborhood, and we were going to have pizza there, and we all agreed to meet up there, and then we showed up, but the food was still coming from one of us and they didn't know where we were located, so we could send the location as we looked for a suitable table and chairs. We were moving from place to place, and then ultimately that pin location would continue to track you. But doesn't that raise safety concerns? Like, what would you say to somebody who is nervous about being tracked?
Well, one, I would only share with somebody I was comfortable with, a family member or a friend. And 2, when you do share, you get the option of sharing for 1 hour for the day or indefinitely until you stop that sharing. It's quite easy to stop the sharing. It's just one click. If you share indefinitely, just remembering to do it. So when I share my location, I usually do it for 1 hour. And after 1 hour, if they're still looking for me, then I can reshare it. Another application that would be so beneficial is for somebody driving that's lost. And have you ever been on the phone with someone and they're like, well, where are you? I don't know. Where are you? And then, and they're still actively moving. They could stop, or maybe not, for whatever reason. They can share their location, and from home, you can either help navigate them, turn right at your next stop sign, turn left here, or you could physically go to them. You can navigate to that person that's still driving around.
Yeah, there's so many applications I can think about like this. Like if two people were at Disney World, for example, and they're roaming around the park, and then they want to share where they're moved to in the next hour, they could share that so that people can find each other after a ride is over or something like that. So it's a fascinating feature that I doubt many people know even exists. So
Phoenix is a highly organized city with the grid system. And it's very easy to tell someone where you're at. I'm on the northeast corner of these cross streets. I'm on the southwest. But this PIN system makes it even so much easier. I feel very passionate about it because directions are everything. Like knowing where you are and where somebody is and how to get there most easily and efficiently.
Yeah. It reminds me of the game we used to play called geocaching. And it was a game that was played by knowing the GPS coordinates of a particular object that was stashed somewhere in a tree or in a location in a downtown area, and you as the person playing the game would try to use those GPS coordinates to navigate to that item. But it wasn't so precise. It got you within a circle of maybe 50 to 100 feet, but that's still, it was hidden. So you had to find it in that location.
Right. And if you think about geocaching, 15 years ago, like you said, it would get you to maybe within 100-foot radius, and then you were searching. Geocaching has evolved so much that it can take you to the actual bush that the item is hidden in now.
Yeah.
And that same technology can be applied to maps.
Yeah, and the part of the game was finding the item. In this case, what you're describing is we want you to be found.
Yes.
I'm trying to use this location as a way to get to a precise spot, and these tools really give you what you need, right?
Right. Yeah.
What else have we talked about? Everything? Anything else that you can think of that you would say to perhaps a person who says, "Gee, that's really interesting, but I don't think I'll ever use it." What would you say?
I don't know. I use it constantly. I feel like everybody should use it constantly. I think we've covered all of it. I think being able to toggle back and forth between the satellite and the Explore maps is useful depending on what you're using it for. Because sometimes I like the much more broad view. Sometimes I like to know if a specific area has grass or gravel. And so that's what the satellite would be useful for. So,
I don't know. I'm very excited to start using this more, and I think I'm going to try to play the game with you a little bit of trying to find you from time to time, or ask you to send me a pin where you are, so I can get more used to practicing it. I think for me and many other of the people who might enjoy our show, it's just a matter of getting your feet wet, trying something that you maybe have never looked at before. And this is why we introduce these kinds of topics, is so that people can hear, and especially with all your passion about this topic, I think it's very exciting to find someone who's actually doing something like you do on a regular basis and uses it so frequently that maybe more people can get it.
Yeah, I think the biggest, if I could say to anybody, the takeaway should be, you don't have to be there. You can drop a pin to anywhere from anywhere.
Anywhere in the world.
Anywhere in the world.
The globe is covered with these kinds of maps, and so it's very, very useful in that way. So, all right, great. Well, thank you, Jamie, so much for coming on. We're going to have everybody kind of focus look for the links that we have with the demo on this, because it's going to be posted with the video, and you'll be able to see it. Maybe we can record one right now so we can get one posted. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks for joining me today on Tech Tips for Seniors. I hope you found today's tech tip helpful. If so, let me know by leaving a note in the comments section for this episode. And if you would be so awesome if you would like, subscribe, and pass this on to a friend who can get something out of it. It would also be helpful if you left us a review, and if you've done that already, thank you very much. Remember, stay tuned for the next episode of Tech Tips for Seniors. Take care.